Trump would have been charged with obstruction were he not president, hundreds of former federal prosecutors assert.
Here's a summary of the article.
More than 370 former federal prosecutors who worked in Republican and Democratic administrations have signed on to a statement asserting special counsel Robert S. Mueller's findings would have produced obstruction charges against President Trump, if not for the office he held. Each of us believes that the conduct of President Trump described in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report would, in the case of any other person not covered by the Office of Legal Counsel policy against indicting a sitting president, result in multiple felony charges for obstruction of justice, the former federal prosecutors wrote. Of course, there are potential defenses or arguments that could be raised in response to an indictment of the nature we describe here, but, to look at these facts and say that a prosecutor could not probably sustain a conviction for obstruction of justice, the standard set out in Principles of Federal Prosecution, runs counter to logic and our experience. Among the high-profile signers are Bill Weld, a former U.S. Attorney and Justice Department official in the Reagan administration who is running against Trump as a Republican, Donald Ayre, a former Deputy Attorney General in the George H.W. Bush administration, John S. Martin, a former U.S. Attorney and federal judge appointed to his posts by two Republican presidents, Paul Rosenzweig, who served as senior counsel to independent counsel Kenneth W. Starr, and Jeffrey Harris, who worked as the principal assistant to Rudolph W. Giuliani when he was at the Justice Department in the Reagan administration. The signatures were collected by the nonprofit group Protect Democracy, which counts Justice Department alumni among its staff and was contacted about the statement last week by a group of former federal prosecutors, said Justin Vale, an attorney at Protect Democracy. All of this conduct, trying to control and impede the investigation against the president by leveraging his authority over others, is similar to conduct we have seen charged against other public officials and people in powerful positions, the former federal prosecutors wrote in their letter. At the same time, if we had confidence after a thorough investigation of the facts that the president clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, we would so state, Mueller's team wrote.
This post received a score of 53,497, with an upvote ratio of 75%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
370 edit, now 426 former federal prosecutors, appointed and/or having served under both parties, signed the statement. Quinta Jurecic at Lawfare wrote a breakdown of the evidence for each act of obstruction captured beautifully in this chart, citing Mueller's words on each element needed for prosecution. It remains the best summary of why these prosecutors are this confident in the assessment. Out of 14 acts of obstruction analyzed by Mueller, 8 are clearly indictment-worthy, and at least 4 are open and shut cases.
So, is the plan to just acknowledge this fact and still do fuck all about it? Because I have to say, so far my faith in our judiciary system is thoroughly shattered. Edit, justice system. I don't specifically mean the judicial branch of government. Rather I mean our checks and balances as a whole.
Theoretically, impeachment was created just for this specific purpose, because the president can't be held criminally liable while in office and therefore the recourse is supposed to be congressional oversight. So now the question is, should we even bother with impeachment fully knowing it is doomed to fail, or do we just not thinking that impeachment might harm the efforts to remove him electorally in 2020? There's good arguments to be made on both sides for this purpose, and quite frankly I'm not sure what the correct move is. The system was not designed with craven obedience by the political parties in power in mind.
There is an unofficial rule to not arrest a sitting president that can be traced back to an OLC memo. Imagine if some racist cop had found a racist judge to issue a warrant for Obama's arrest over that whole birther thing. Jackass cops could bog down an entire presidency with trash like that, so the OLC and DOJ just decided it was better to not arrest a sitting president. If a POTUS did something arrest-worthy, they could be impeached, removed, and then arrested once out of office.
No run-of-the-mill cop would ever be allowed physical access to the president. The Secret Service wouldn't allow it. Just look at when Cheney shot that guy in the face. The Secret Service didn't let local cops talk to Cheney until there was already a deal between the cops and the sheriff.
I heard it was actually a prostitute that shot the guy in the face accidentally. Cheney just took the blame cause he knew he'd be fine. Didn't want to create a scandal.
I upvoted because it's a funny conspiracy theory.
A new CNN poll showed that 87% of Americans have not read any of the Mueller report, which reveals this same finding. Having Mueller testify on national TV would be the way to informing this massive number of people.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.